How did this happen? To know why Survive Night graph looks like this, we have to head back to when they started.
Finally, I finished my game. Time to publish it.
Hey guys, what's up? It's JMT, and I was gonna go ahead and add text to the video, but there's a lot to say in update 2.0, and I want to go ahead and talk about it. So
Yeah, so the game blew up, reaching up to 6,000 concurrent players, weekly updates, many YouTubers playing it, and a supported community. Org team knew what they were doing, making a better remake from the game before the dawn, and making banger after banger updates, adding plenty of new maps, skins, gears and perks to keep the game fresh. There was always so much new content every update to keep players playing. But many updates later, Org team got tired of making weekly updates because it was getting too hard to keep pumping out new content all the time, so they took more breaks. And you can see it impacted a lot for the players, and a lot of them started to leave the game because it was getting really repetitive, making it boring. The game was getting more and more repetitive, so Org team planned to make a brand new game mode called Story Mode, which added lore to Survive the Night, which made the game more popular again, bringing a lot of YouTubers playing the new Story Mode. But there was a problem. You see, the Story Mode update made the game performance really bad, which made a lot of players lag and unplayable, because half of the players were on the phone, which doesn't have as much power as computers, which made the game go 180 degrees. Org team noticed it and fixed the problem later. But the damage was done, and most players forgot about the game after it was fixed. The game was slowly losing players each day, because the story mode update isn't really replayable. Yes, it is fun playing the story mode the first time, but then later it's no use playing it again because it's basically rewatching a YouTube video. And adding lore to Survive Night actually makes it much worse, because it takes a lot of time developing the story mode, which makes the update much slower, and all you're getting from it is just a new story mode which takes around 10 to 15 minutes to complete, and it's basically over. But the one thing Survive Night is good at is the Battle Pass updates, which brings a lot of players grinding the new items, which takes time and now has a more purpose playing the game, because you're getting limited items. Survive Night was especially doing good at Halloween updates, which Org team knows most players play horror games at Halloween, and want to make special updates for this month. But when the Halloween update is over, the game became more depressing, because there was literally nothing new about the game, which makes even YouTubers quit the game, like JMT did, which also decreased the player base. He came back a few months later, and people started playing it more often again, but it didn't last long. And when the new story mode update comes out, it doesn't really grow the game because it's just 10 to 15 minutes of playthrough, and then it's done, back to normal. Later on, Org team sees no growth in the player base, so they decided to work on a brand new game mode called Hunt, which is basically a survival mode but with guns and missions. The game started to get popularity again, and plenty of YouTubers trying the new mode. And it was successful and really fun, but there was only a few missions, which was getting really repetitive after playing for a few hours, and the updates aren't really weekly anymore, so they won't make much progress in time, which makes a lot of players impatient and leaving the game. But that wasn't the only mistake Org did. After they released the new Hunt mode, Org team stated that they are kinda finished with survival mode, which made a stupid mistake, because more than half of the player base are playing survival mode, which makes their game kinda killing itself if they aren't planning to do anything new into survival mode. Of course, Hunt mode is great, but if you just completely quit survival mode, then Survive Night is completely useless. After a few updates, the Hunt updates weren't bad at all. In my opinion, they were kinda good, adding new missions, guns, skins, and new items in the Battle Pass, but the game isn't getting revived if they only focus on Hunt mode. So they started working on Story mode, Night 3, which is still I don't understand why they stick with it, because it took them months developing one new night in story mode, and for it to be played one time and then you quit it. Like, story mode is completely useless. All it does, it makes updates much slower for just a quick lore of Survive the Night. It's not like it boosts the player base, you can see it just declines over time, and now we're getting to the point where it's not close from being a fell-off game to a dead game, which are two completely different words. Fell-off game is just a game that had a lot of players at its peak to only having half of it or a third of its player base, while dead game is like nobody's playing it. And Survive the Night is not soon of being a dead game. And yes, Survive Night is dying 100% if you just look at the graph.
Well, don't tell me the game isn't dying, bruh.
Now, will Survive Night be a dead game? To be honest, it might in just a few years. And even Orc team doesn't really care about the game anymore, since they are now focusing on a brand new game, Pirate Tale 2, which just shows they're kinda finished with Survive the Night, other than just a few story modes and hunt updates, which is just fine, but the update it takes is just unbelievable. They are planning to make story mode Night 4, but I don't see that to change anything towards Survive the Night at all. So yeah, Survive Night is probably going to die in a few years. But there's one thing I want to say, can the game get revived? And the answer is 100%. The game could go back to its peak with 6,000 players or even more if they really wanted to. If I was them, I would completely revamp Survive the Night, adding new content, new maps and all the new stuff in survival mode and hunt mode. Story mode really doesn't need to exist, if it just makes updates delay, so I will still continue story mode, but I will not focus on it entirely, but just make it more replayable, like adding gameplay on story mode where you can have more things to do than just do the exact same gameplay over and over again. And it's not like the devs don't have any more ideas for the game, there are hundreds, maybe even thousands of ideas to be added in Survive the Night that are already been asked in their Discord server that could be added, and ask maybe big YouTubers like to play the game, so the game becomes more recognized, and having more players playing shows more people sticking with the game because it makes them more confident that the game will not die anytime soon. So yeah, that is basically the entire story of Survive the Night, and if you wonder why I'm making this video, well, first of all, it's so Orc team can notice this video, understand how to revive it, and second of all, just making content, so just maybe the game can get revived, because I'll be doing plenty of new content in Survive Night to make it more fun to play, and maybe even motivate Orc team to develop more on the game. So yeah, leave a sub if you're interested in Survive the Night, and thanks for watching.